Danny Ings is West Ham's 53rd striker under the GSB era. 22 of those strikers out of the 53 didn't score a goal for the club. Now, I've got to be honest with you, mate. I was a little bit. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking Danny Ings. He's a very, very good striker, good finisher, and great. But when we signed him, there was a part of me thinking a bit. Did we really need do we need another striker? Is that the issue? Because we were playing generally so poorly anyway. I wasn't really thinking just to getting a goal scoring would help. Because let's be honest, we've done this before and it rarely works. But Danny Ings' performance against Nottingham Forest, 2 goals in quick succession, gives a little bit of a hope that this is the player that we've been looking for, someone to put the ball in the net. What's your feelings on Danny Ings overall, his time at West Ham so far, mate?
I don't really think we play to his strengths very much. I don't think we play to any of our striker strengths very much. No. We just seem to lump the ball in the box like we've got Andy Carroll still playing for us. It just doesn't really make much sense. That I think the 2 goals that Ings scored were just based on complete instinct. And he's got one of those strikers' instincts. Does Antonio score those goals? I argue he's probably not in the position to score those goals because he's not got that proper striker's instinct. So, and even Scamacca, to be fair, I think he likes to drop a little deeper, whereas Danny Ings is just this little fox in a box. He just likes to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Scored 2 goals. I mean, the first goal as well, I think he held his run really well to actually be able to be onside. But once again, I just feel like we don't play to his strengths. We don't play the ball to his feet. We don't play the ball in the box. The 4 goals that we scored yesterday were all basically created by, creating space on the byline. And trying to beat the man at the first post. So I don't know why we're not doing that more often, instead of just sort of lumping it to Kufau and then him trying to find Suchek at the back post, or it just seems strange. I mean, Danny Ings is how tall? Like 5'10", and we're still trying to put balls in the box towards him. It just seems strange. But I also am impressed by his pressing as well. I think he's one of them strikers that can lead from the front and sort of set the press off, and often we won the ball back from penning Nottingham Forest in. So, we've been crying out for a proper striker for a very long time now, and at least he hasn't joined that list of 22. He's got his goal for us, so we can move on to the next striker now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good signing. He'll score us some goals, and hopefully there'll be some vital ones in there as well.
Yeah, you'd like to think so. I think that will give him the boost that he would have wanted. Let's be honest, as a striker, that's your bread and butter, isn't it? Putting the ball in the net, and once you get off the mark, you get the feeling with Danny Ings, once he's one of those players that once he's got off the mark, and it will certainly give him that confidence boost that he probably needed, and just to sort of settle things down. I think I would imagine we'll see some more goals from him between now and the end of the season. I'm pretty confident in that, as long as he stays fit. We touched on it in a previous video as well. We've got Europe coming back up as well. We're going back into the last 16 knockout stages of the Conference League. Certainly, I'm sure that's something he'll be licking his lips and wanting to be involved in. And like you say, mate, I mean, bloody hell. I mean, the record of our striker signings is shocking. 53 and 22 of them didn't even score. I mean, the start, I mean, even to say the word, 53 strikers in, I mean, we're talking now, that's 13 years. 53 strikers in 13 years. I mean, that is so ridiculous, isn't it? It's mental. I mean, I've never heard of it. I actually genuinely didn't believe it. I knew it was high. And I saw a statistic about it and read back on it, and some of the names that jumped out at you. I mean, you've got the Benny McCarthy's, Midos, and I mean, honestly, it's just an absolute shambles signings. They were just awful, and never did anything for us. But you do get the feeling with Danny Ings, and these are rare in strikers, and this is just across the globe, that, like you've just said, mate, he's a natural goal scorer, a natural finisher, a bit of a fox in the box, knows how to get there. A Tony Cottee, someone that can, a Jermaine Defoe, get in there, just gets the ball in the net. Whatever happens, I'm going to be there. I'll find a way of getting in the net, and that's what we've signed. And that is, I do get that feeling now that this is what we've needed. We needed that because he made the difference, didn't he? I thought it was a all good round performance against Nottingham Forest, but he ultimately he was a key player in that, a key cog. The fact that the chances he had weren't that great. I actually thought that the first ball from Bowen, it was kind of behind him. I thought he had to sort of shape his body quite well, but I thought he finished it really well. So, yeah, mate, I've got to be honest. I'm starting to think that this has been quite an astute signing from the club. Is that your feelings, or are you still thinking we could have done better?
No, I mean, you look at, we either signed no striker, and you've got Antonio Scamacca on the pitch, and I don't think they scored those goals yesterday. Or you get someone like Danny Ings in, and I think he was kind of the best case scenario out of the January transfer window. But again, I just don't think I don't think what we need is a natural born goal scorer, because essentially when we had Chicharito, you kind of need to put it on a plate for him, and it's the same with Danny Ings. You kind of need to put it at least to his feet in the box for him to do anything with it. And for us to even get to that stage is quite difficult for us. So for me, I would appreciate a striker who's more linked with build-up play. So for me, Scamacca suits our system, suits our style of play a little bit better, because he will bring more players into the game, bring more wingers into the game, and then he can drop back and score goals from outside of the box. And, if we end up lumping it in for a millionth time, he's quite tall, so he might better score a header. But, when we actually turned it on in the 70th minute and started playing the ball to feet, started going to the byline and trying to beat the first man, it worked out perfectly for us, and he scored 2 goals. And, I'm sure he would have scored the same goal Antonio would have scored, and he probably would have had a fair few more chances. I just do worry that what we don't need is a natural born goal scorer, because you do need to, fork out a chance for him. You kind of need to do half the work for him already for him to put it in the back of the net. And that is, what we really struggle with, is actually being able to get the ball in the box and create the chances in the first place.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. That's the issue we have with Danny Ings. Like you say, we don't really set up the system for his strengths. Like, if you look at where he's been more prolific, is when he's played as a front two. You find that. I mean, I appreciate David Moyes is trying to accommodate that in a sense by having Souček advance more forward when we do attack. So effectively, he operates as the second striker. But I just feel like it'd be nice. I'd love to see him work with Scamacca. I'd love to see how that would work. I think that'd be a very, very interesting dynamic. As you say, if you got someone like that alongside him, you'd imagine it would help him quite considerably. Especially the fact that, you're looking at Scamacca's hold-up play and ability and height, the way you can get above defenders and lay it down for Ings. I think it would work well. It's just whether David Moyes would want to adopt that system. I just don't think he will. David Moyes, that's one of his biggest criticisms, isn't it? Is that he buys players and then doesn't really know how to utilise them. He doesn't ever play to their strengths. Effectively, he did it with Paqueta straight away. He's done it with Souček and Rice, really, throughout the season. Declan Rice is far better suited as a defensive midfielder. And I appreciate he has got the ability to go forward, but it just doesn't work. But he doesn't seem to see that sometimes, David Moyes. And you can see straight away early on, Paqueta wasn't going to fit well in the number 10 role at West Ham. He needed to play a deeper position. And yet he just ignored it. He's brought in Danny Ings and he needs support, and yet he plays him up front on his own. But, it is what it is. And, I'm not going to try and put a negative on it. I don't, it's just great to see Danny Ings off the mark. But I'm certainly, can you see him being a key component for West Ham now and getting us out of the situation we're in this season?
I mean, yeah, like I said, I think he's a natural born goal scorer, but I do worry we're not going to play to his strengths. And therefore, how many, if we're just expecting to, because he scores goals, chuck Danny Ings at striker and expect him to score, 2 goals every game or so. Football doesn't work like that, unfortunately. And he's been in a few different systems. When he was at Villa, he played with 2 up top. Then he also played with Watkins in a Bowen sort of roles, cutting in and sort of doing all that. So he is adaptable to our system, but I just don't think the way we play suits him. However, I still think he'll probably score between, if we're just talking Premier League, probably between 5 and 7 goals, I think, towards the end of the season. And I think he'll have a decent role to play in the Conference League. And personally, I would prefer him to Antonio, because I think we just look a little bit more organised. We look like we've got a bit more of a situation going on when he's up top. And I think he presses better than Antonio as well. His hold-up play is not as good, but I think if we're looking for a proper number 9 in this sort of system, he's going to suit us perfectly. And he's definitely got more goals to come.
Absolutely, mate. Couldn't agree more.